Robert has a little bit of training in baseball. How hard did you play? Okay, it's not a real baseball. Is that soft or is that hard? Friendly ball. Friendly ball. Friendly ball. I don't think Robert really cares, but it's not really that hard. So what I want Robert to do is I want him to stand over here by the plate where he normally stands, which he's a lefty. Move this out of the way a little bit. So one of the things that bum puzzles coaches is that we want to try and keep our eyes on the ball. And what I'm going to propose today, or at least present today, is a study by Dr. A. Terry Bahill and T. LaRitz. And I think they're physicists, something like that. And we're going to talk about that baseball players or softball players cannot keep their eyes on the ball. So Robert, go ahead and stand in like you're going to get. I'm going to throw a slow one first. And I want what you guys, he's a little trained, so you're going to see probably a little something different than you would see. He's not swinging, he's taking. Don't worry about it. He's not swinging. It's soft. It's soft. Take a strike. He's going to be taking. Yeah, hello.
I protect the equipment.
Yeah, the equipment.
I don't have any personal protective equipment on it.
So what I want you guys to see is look for his head movement, any kind of head movement. Look for his eyes if you can, or one of the other. Okay? He's a little trained, so you're going to see somebody who's not trained. They're going to, which we'll present in the study, they act or react a little differently. Okay, so I'm just going to throw it not too hard. This first one's just going to be a little slow. Okay, so one more time, I'm going to throw a little harder, and I promise not being it. Okay, it's a little harder. Okay, did any of you guys see a difference in his head movement or his eyes between the slower pitch versus the faster pitch? Anybody see a difference? Did his head move? Did his head move or eyes move more with the slower pitch than it did with the faster one?
His head's faster.
Move faster?
Yeah.
Slower pitch. With the move.
Yeah,
Follow better, the slower pitch. Awesome. Thank you, Mr. Robert. Thank you, sir. So like I mentioned, this is a study that's back here by Dr. Terry Bahill. I might call him Terry A. But this is, like I said, some coaches get bun puzzled with keeping your eye on the ball. And Ted Williams, one of the last hitter actually to hit 400 in the season, which is very, very good. That was back in 1941, so it was a long time ago. He hit 406. This was his third year in the big leagues, I think. He was a young kid. But Ted Williams stated that it was only on the rare occasions that he could actually see the ball hit the bat. And as we'll find in this study, it is almost inhumanly impossible. Humanly impossible. So we're being able to see this bat ball contact. So everybody trusts Ted Williams. It's like when a doctor tells you need to eat right. It's okay, I do need to eat right. So here's the problem. Common coaching cues we often hear a lot of younger players are keep your eyes on the ball and watch the ball hit the bat. And we'll talk about kind of break those down as we go. That's according to the studies, according to the two doctors doing it, tracking 100-mile-an-hour pitch, which there are actually a couple pitchers in the big leagues right now that throw over 100 miles an hour. Tracking a 100-mile-per-hour pitch would require head and eye rotations of 1,000 degrees per second. Now, there's going to be some technical jargon that's going to be mentioned, but I'm going to do my best to take it down. But all you need to know is that in 100 years or a century of scientific literature says that humans cannot track targets moving faster than 90 degrees per second. That's a big change, big difference. So the difference between tracking an airplane going the same speed at an altitude of 20,000 feet. So imagine an airplane going across the sky way at 20,000 feet altitude, and you can track that thing pretty easily and pretty smooth. Versus tracking it going the same speed but 100 feet over your head. It's going to be a lot faster and it's going to be harder to track. The difference is what the doctors call linear versus angular velocity. So linear would be like coming at you, it'd be like catching a ball, right? Somebody's throwing a ball at you and that ball coming straight at you. So like a catcher catching the ball in a baseball game. Versus the hitter, which is actually the ball's not coming at him, or her, it's actually coming across. So that's what the doctors, there's a difference between linear versus angular velocities there. So the speeds that ball's going, coming across you versus coming at you are different. What we're going to cover in this presentation, how the problem was solved, study conclusions, study applications, and then study limitations. So how the problem was solved. So how the research or the experiment went was that they simulated a fastball was with a wiffle ball. So it wasn't like this. This is just a foam ball, soft foam ball. Wiffle ball has holes in it and it's hollowed in the center. And they pulled it on fishing wire across. They had between it was 80 foot between these two poles. But they had it start at 60 feet 6 inches, which is the major league pitching distance. And it was connected to a motor, so the ball was pulled on a motor. So that was the distance, was the 60 foot 6 inches. They simulated a high outside fastball, which means as a right-handed hitter, ball was more in this zone up here, so higher in the strike zone, but higher outside, yeah, so up and out a little bit. And it was being simulated by a left-handed pitcher. So me as a right-handed hitter, the left-handed pitcher is throwing this way, so it's coming across. So it's one of the easier balls to track. They just tried to make it as simple as possible to do the experiment, basically. And they moved the speeds between 60 and 90 miles per hour on that with that motor. Technical equipment that was used to monitor eye movements was mounted on special eyeglasses. So this is back in 1984, by the way, so the glasses looked kind of goofy, but they were monitoring where his fovea in his eye was moving and tracking, were the students and the doctor. There was also technical equipment that kept track of head movement that sat on top of the head, and it measured, these are boating terms, yaw, or like shaking your head no, so that's like the boat going this way. Pitch, which is shaking your head yes, so that's the boat doing this, right? And roll, so cocking the head, going this way, it'd be like the boat doing this. So it was monitoring those movements with the head. Subjects for the experiment were graduate students, so non-ball players. You had undergrad baseball players, and you had Brian Harper, who at the time was playing for the Pittsburgh Pirates, and he had 20/20 uncorrected vision, so he wasn't wearing glasses or corrective eye lenses. So there's 4 types of eye movements. They all have independent control systems. First one is cited. It's used for reading text or scanning a room full of people, and what I'm doing right now. Vestibulo-ocular. It's used to maintain fixation during head movements. So when I'm walking, we actually go up and down when we walk. It's crazy if you flip upside down on your couch, so you're watching TV upside down and you're just watching a show where people are walking. It's funny because it looks like they're doing this. Because you're looking at it from a different view, but that's actually what we're doing. So this part helps our eyes stay fixed on a specific whatever we're looking at, even though we're moving. Vergence, used when looking between near and far objects. So if you put your finger in front of you, focus on that, and then I focus on Peggy real quick. That's what vergence is. Smooth pursuit, which is used when tracking a moving object. So just standing there and actually trying to track that ball coming in front of your face. Now, some of the conclusions that came out of this study. I mentioned a little earlier that students made large head or eye movements. They didn't have a combination of the two. It was either they moved their head a lot or they moved their eyes a lot, but they didn't use a combination. The professional hitter moved a combination of both, and we'll find out what that actually means, but used a combination of the head movement and the eye movement together. Professional athlete had faster, smooth pursuit eye movements. Professional athlete had better eye-hand coordination. And a lot of this comes from just the training. A major league athlete will have played ball 18 plus years. So they've seen this over and over and over, hundreds of thousands of millions of times. The stance of the professional was repeatable. So with people, when you are familiar with a movement, you're going to be doing it in different ways. The professional athlete, every time he got in the box, the stance was pretty much the same. Where the student might stand open one time, might stand close another time, might move his head different or her head. You know, it was very different. So the head position for the professional athlete was the same within 1 degree. So the asterisk is a degree because I didn't have a degree mark on my computer. Consistency with the head position. This was a professional athlete. Eyes rotated at 22 degrees. So he was a right-handed hitter, so his eyes would rotate 22 degrees off of center was the start. He would head rotated 65 degrees left, so the yaw, so like saying no, so his head was rotated this way. His head bowed 23 degrees down, okay, so down this way, that's the pitch, and then head tilted right 12 degrees, so the roll. So you see this kind of slightly this way, down, and tilted position that the professional athlete took, whereas the amateur athletes didn't. The professional athlete could track a ball until 5.5 feet from the plate. Grab this. So 5.5 feet from the plate is about 5.5 feet. Think of a human being here. So probably at the beginning of this run right here. So the professional athlete saw the ball all the way up until here, and then it went off of his fovea. So it went out of his view, and he started to see it out of the corner of his eye. The students actually lost it at about 10 feet. So about this point here, they lost it, and they were seeing it out of the corner. That's probably why a lot of the head turning that they had to do, or the major eye turn, the big head turn, big eye turn. So about 9 feet to home plate. So steady applications. One of the things being what coaches say, don't move your head. Professional hitter gave his head a head start because his head was heavier than the eyes. You have bigger muscles in the head that have to move the head. Hey, the head weighs 9 pounds, like in a Jerry Maguire little kid's head, right? So the head takes more muscle to move the head than it does the eyes. Eyes are smaller objects to be able to move. And so what we see is that the professional hitter would have his eyes this way, or as the pitch was released, his head would move this way to get a head start, but his eyes would stay fixated on the ball, so that his head could get a head start and then his eyes would catch up over here, and then he'd track with both. So the vestibular system in the inner ear signals to the ocumotor system to make a compensating leftward eye movement. So that's that eye movement this way while the head's kind of starting to turn already. This allows the head to start turning while the gaze remains fixed on the ball. However, the vestibular compensation stops in the last half of ball flight. So the head has to stop moving at some point. So it's about what they found was that at the middle of ball flight, so about 30 feet or so, the head had to stop moving and the eyes had to catch up, and then the head and eyes had to sync together to follow it the rest of the way. Head and eyes must both be moving to the right. Professional athlete made head tracking movements 10 to 20 degrees. So you can't say, keep your eye, don't move your head. This professional athlete is definitely moving his head. What batter does not want to do is allow rotations of the body to drag the head along, which means as they start to swing to the body, as it's rotating, to turn the head off. So the head should stay fixed in a specific position. This is from the doctor who said, instead of don't move your head, don't let your body pull your head, but it's okay to move your head to help track the ball, is what the conclusion that he came to. So this study did have limitations. Data pool was small. Experiments were difficult to perform. 50 hours of data collection, it's a lot of time. Thousands of hours of setup time and data analysis. Complete head and eye data for 6 pitches, so there weren't a lot of pitches, and partial data for another 15, a total of 11 seconds of data. Subjects never swung the bat, kind of like what Robert did. He just took it for fear of breaking equipment, right? That would really push your study back. Possible head and eye coordination would be different if we swung the bat. That's what they came up with, that it would be different. Easiest pitch to track was a high and outside fastball from a left-handed pitcher to a right-handed hitter, because it's coming in this way. Even with limitations, though, it was easy to generalize the findings. What we went over: how the problem was solved, the study conclusions, study applications, and the study limitations. Thank you.
The Hitting Performance Lab wants to know, did you know that you may be losing out on 8 miles per hour of average bat speed because of one commonly taught hitting technique? Have you ever heard the coaching terms, squish the bug, squish out the cigarette butt? Well, we created a free video revealing the results of a scientific study that will show you how we added an average of 8 miles an hour to average bat speed by doing the exact opposite of squishing the bug. Click here now to get the video while it's still free.